So, hi, everybody, and welcome to Friday. Welcome to episode 214 of Level Up. Of course, 60 minutes of live Q&A where your questions really do drive the show. If you're watching over on YouTube, you can, of course, find out much more about what APMG does over on our channel. So do give this video a like, please, and subscribe to find out so much more and be, of course, alerted every time we post some new content up for you to be able to watch and interact with and so on. Ella is across in the social chat today. So if you're joining us live on LinkedIn or on YouTube, do introduce yourself, please, to her. Let us know your name and, of course, the city from where you're joining. She's going to post some links in so that you can vote up the questions that you would most like answered. And, of course, for you to be able to add your own as well. If your questions are selected, and you can see lots of people joining now, so that's great. If your question is selected, then your name, of course, will appear in the credits at the end of the show, and quite right too. So do get those questions in early and stay with us to see all of that happening. At this time of year, it's a brilliant time, isn't it, to take a step back and kind of think carefully about the year ahead and set ourselves some new goals, not just in our personal life, but also in our professional development as well. And of course, to think about how we dovetail into our immediate team and the wider organization. Setting goals can sometimes be a little bit tricky, but sticking to them can be even harder sometimes. So let's think carefully today about what those goals might be, and also, importantly, how we might be able to get the help and the support to be able to actually achieve more of the goals that we set ourselves this year than perhaps we've been able to manage in the past. We've got an amazing panel to help us on our journey, so let's jump straight in and meet them all. Daniëlle Hellebrand is, of course, the owner and CEO of BetterBrains at Work. It's a fantastic name for an organization. She holds a master's degree in cognitive neuroscience and specializes in coaching executives, helping each individual achieve their maximum potential. A regular contributor now to Level Up, Daniëlle is well placed to help us understand our motivations, I suppose, and how we might be able to achieve those resolutions that we set. Welcome back to Level Up, Daniëlle.
Thank you, Nick, for inviting me. And I'm so much looking forward to this show because I can use some help myself. And because around this time, mid-January, a lot of us are struggling with keeping up our New Year's resolution. And as always, looking forward to the audience's questions, to the wisdom of my fellow panelists. And I have a paper at hand and we'll be writing a lot.
Okay, well, excellent. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today. Lots of energy is needed mid-January, isn't it? Especially in the Northern Hemisphere where the days are a little short and the light levels are a little lower. Sarah Hills joins us from the beautiful sunny county of Dorset in the UK. She is, of course, the owner, not just now of Carpe Omnia training, but also CUPE International that she recently took under her wing, focused on projects and change management and coaching and enabling others. Sarah also chairs, busy lady, the ASTRI group, who champion raising standards in professional education and training. Welcome back to Level Up, Sarah. Lovely to see you.
Wonderful to be here. Very excited about this discussion. And as Nick said, actually, I am quite a busy lady and I wouldn't be able to do half of it if I didn't actually have my goals in place.
Absolutely right. So it's good to set them and stick to them as far as we're able at any rate and get a little help along the way. Michał rejoins today. It's an experienced panel today. Michał Brennek, he is an instructor not just with the Open Management Education Centre or OMEC, but also he's now working across other organisations as well. Never somebody to rest on his success. He reviews his own work and reevaluates his own contribution regularly, always striving, I would say, to improve how he delivers his coaching and training and project services. So welcome back to Level Up, Michał. Great to have you here today.
Hello, great to be here. I'm right now in my lab. One of my New Year's resolution is getting finally to my PhD studies. So welcome to my lab.
Okay, fantastic. It's lovely to see everybody in a work environment. People work from home, people work from different places around the world. So Michał, it's fantastic to have you on board and to be working from the lab today. It's brilliant to see that. Gary Gamp joins. He is, of course, senior partner over at Positive Momentum, a change agent himself, and a very accomplished senior executive. He specializes in a whole range of different topics, but sales leadership, change, transformation really do spring to mind. He runs a very successful podcast, which I thoroughly recommend. I do listen to it a great deal, The Company Doctor. And through his work, he remains a personal inspiration to me. Welcome back to Level Up, Gary. Lovely to see you today.
Oh, thank you, Nick. What a great intro and great to be on. Thanks for inviting me back. I obviously didn't do too bad last time you invited me back. Looking forward to this session particularly because the new year does conjure up ideas about careers and making things happen. So hopefully we can help a few people make things happen. And as Daniëlle said, hopefully we can learn some stuff ourselves. So thank you.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you very much indeed. And thank you for supporting the Level Up community so strongly throughout the years. Another person who's been with us from the very beginning, actually, is Mart Rovers. He, you may remember, is the CEO at INTERPROM, where he leads teams in both the US and also in Europe to help their clients improve business outcomes. One of our most frequent contributors, which is brilliant. Mart has been with us, as I mentioned, since we began in 2021. Welcome back to Level Up, Mart, and your first appearance in 2024, which is lovely.
It's the first one in the new year, exactly. Thank you, Nick, for having me. Appreciate it. A great introduction. Great to be on this power panel, I called it on social media. It's fantastic to be surrounded with such brilliance. I can only imagine the answers that the audience is going to hear today. I found this inspirational quote from Chris Grosser, who says, "Opportunities don't happen, you create them." And I thought, well, that's maybe a good one to start off with. Speaking of your New Year's resolution list, by the way, always makes me think of this cartoon of two reindeers asking one and says, "So what is that resolution?" And the other one says, "Oh, that's a people's to-do list for the first week of the year." Hopefully that's not too bad.
Very good. I mean, hopefully ours will last a little bit longer at least. So if you've not done it so far after today's event, my top tip is write it out and put it on the fridge, okay? And then you can at least remind yourself on a daily basis as you reach to make your morning cup of coffee or your afternoon cup of tea, depending on which time zone you're in. So very good. I just want to see if we've got our question master for today. I think we do have, despite some internet glitches from the south of England. Charlotte Miller joins us from the Thames Valley. It was quite flooded, Charlotte. Perhaps your internet connection is underwater.
Yes, it is very wet here and it is very cold as well. So I don't know if the cable connection has just frozen over and then has got a bit waterlogged at the same time. So yes, fingers crossed, all okay.
All right. Okay, very good. Well, look, we've got lots of folks joining online. Do remember, if you're in the audience, to introduce yourself to the team, and we'll get you onto the show very quickly. In the meantime, though, Charlotte, I think we should start off with our first question to the panel, please.
Thanks, Nick. Our first question is from Esther. Esther asks, how do I stick to my goals without falling off the wagon?
Okay. Oh, it's really nicely phrased, actually, Esther, isn't it? Because best laid plans of mice and men and all that. Sarah, why don't you start us off and then we'll hear from Gary?
Yeah, great question, because it's so easy, like a bit like Mart said with the reindeers, to start the year really infused and to have these well-laid plans, but how do you stay on track? So I think the first thing is to make sure that they're definitely something you personally want to achieve, that you're not kind of listening into what other people think could be good for you or, you know, what you're hearing from everybody else. And break them down into bite-sized chunks so they're achievable. So, and if you do fall off the wagon, remember we're human. Don't beat yourself up for too long. Forgive yourself, pick yourself back up and get yourself back on track. Now, it's a bit cheesy, but I create a vision board every year. It has career and personal goals on, and it kind of just keeps me visually motivated as well. So when I do fall a little bit back behind, I'll pass over to one of the other experts now.
I really love that idea, and that appeared to me immediately in my mind, Sarah. That looked like a mouse mat. Do you use your vision board underneath your mouse, or is it just somewhere that you can kind of see it and reference it from time to time?
It's very much on my focal point on my wall, but I took it off to be able to show a visual aid.
Okay. Fantastic. I think that's really, really great idea. I might borrow that one myself. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks, Sarah. Gary, your thoughts, and then we'll go to Daniëlle.
Hopefully you don't mind me being controversial. I'm a strong disbeliever in New Year's resolutions for the reason that Mart covered at the beginning, because lots of people go to the gym in January and leave in February. And I think this is part of the problem. So the reason that people are challenged to stick to their goals is that it needs to be part of your DNA. It's not something you do at the beginning of the year. It's something that, as Sarah would say, you've got to really believe in. So what motivates you? I think it starts with the reason why. And from there, if you're really serious about it and it's really important to you, you're more likely to keep doing it. That's the first thing. And then secondly, you really do need to break it down. If you make the goal too big, you're never going to get there and you won't believe it. So you'll fail before you start. So I think it's really important to, what I do is at the end of each day, I review what I did well today and what I could have done better. And I set my goal for tomorrow. And I do that every night, not in the morning, so that I plan my day for the next day. And that gives me half a chance. I'm not perfect, by the way, but it gives me half a chance to carry on doing it. But don't do it in New Year. Do it every day.
You see, you're sharing something there that I've picked up from Michael and his appearances over time. He's a great champion, really, of this kind of sense of incremental improvement. What went well, what can we do better, these kinds of things. And Michael, speaking on your behalf really here, but that very much echoes with me and links into that. So thank you, Gary. Great idea. Daniëlle, your thoughts, and then we'll go to Mart.
Sarah, I did that for years, but not the last couple of years. So thank you for the reminder. I'm going to start doing that again. I think there is something about starting with a blank page and write a new book. So I get that people think the 1st of January a perfect time to make New Year's resolutions. But however, give yourself the permission to be human. We all fall off the wagon once in a while. I like to work with the WOOP concept, WOOP. What is your wish? What do you like to do? For example, lose a few pounds. What is the outcome? A few pounds is very vaguely, let's say 5 kilos. But then, when do we fall off the wagon? Where there are obstacles. So think about what the obstacles can be and make a plan for if something happened and you can't stick for a certain while to your plan. And then the plan. I like to use the 1-for-3 method. That's one goal, 4 seasons, and every season has 3 months. So I like to break it down, that one goal in the 4 seasons, and what am I going to do every single month.
Excellent. Thank you very much. What a great framework to follow. And an exciting acronym as well, WOOP. It kind of sounds exciting. So I made a little note of that. Wish, outcome, obstacles, and plan, if I kind of summarize that correctly. Thank you, Ella, for popping that into the social chat for us as well. Excellent. Very, very good. Mart, your thoughts, and then we'll hear from Michael.
So with Sarah on the vision boards, did 2 actually myself around during the holidays, one for personal goals and one for career goals. And they're inside the whole day. I mean, they're right there. So to be reminded the whole time, like Gary said, right? It's not something you do and then you forget about it. So a great answer so far. What I'd like to add to that is, when you go through that exercise, as far as, what is it that you're looking for to achieve, it needs to come with some soul searching. What is you're passionate about? What is it that, something, maybe even your purpose, right? If you can tap into that, because typically that gets you halfway there, and there are lots of quotes written about that, and research done to back that. In other words, that's half of the exercise, and it's not something that pops up, all of a sudden. You may have to put some effort into that to figure out, what is that I truly care about. In other words, and it may not, something that you find right away. That may be something that you stumble upon, but you have to work on it. You have to put the energy in it to find that purpose, to find that what you're passionate about, and keep your eyes open, because it may take years before you find it, and that's not a bad thing. It may all of a sudden be there again if you pay attention. So find that purpose and passion.
Thank you very much indeed. It's a really great word to consider, isn't it, at this time of year? Purpose. What's our personal purpose? What's our purpose of our organization or our team? And so on. We might talk about that a little bit more later on. Michael, your thoughts, and then we're going to go back to Sarah.
Some of you know me, so you know I like to celebrate. So I would add to those brilliant answers, you have to celebrate even the smallest victories, because then it keeps you motivated. And I'm also with Gary. I do not like to do like huge lists at the beginning of the year, but it is a fantastic moment to review my list. And I don't know how our listeners approach this, but I do like to close a couple of things before the year ends to make space for new things, because they're always fantastic and they're always fascinating in my life.
It's a good point, isn't it? I think otherwise we're left with the challenge of like pushing little tennis balls inside one of those cartons. There's a certain capacity, and the more you try and cram in, at some point something's got to fall out the other end of the carton, hasn't it? So really good point. Thank you, Michael. And Sarah, final thoughts on this?
Thank you. Interestingly, some things have to end for better things to begin. Becoming a quote master like Mart. But it was just quickly to say, if you do fall off the wagon, don't forget to have the kind of insight to know if some of your plans are actually going to naturally need to go a different direction. For a bit of context, last year on my vision, I had all of these APMG accreditations that I was going to undertake for Carpe Omnia, and the opportunity came up to acquire CUPE. And actually within that new opportunity and vision and goal, it actually superseded some of those. So also be mindful of the bigger picture, and actually, don't be afraid to kind of tweak if needed if it kind of gets you to the same place.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely true. I mean, the main thing is about falling off the wagon. It depends if the wagon's still in sight or if the horses have bolted and it's now gone way over the hill. Trying to run to catch back up with it. But I totally agree. There's no reason why not. You can't dust yourself down and get back on and get underway. What a lovely question to start us off, and some lovely comments as well, kind of in the chat. Reese, thank you so much for joining from Stevenage in Hertfordshire in the UK. Really great to have you on board. One of the original garden cities, I think, Stevenage, if I remember rightly. So fantastic to have you online today. And Abdul is joining over from Canada. Abdul, my friend, I don't know if you're in British Columbia in the west, or if you're over in Ontario in the east, or somewhere in the middle, but it's brilliant to have Canada represented today on the show. Fantastic. Thank you for joining. And Akram joins us from Leicester in the UK as well. So great to have you on board. Looking forward to hearing your questions, Akram. Be typed into the chat. I know that Ella's looking forward to that as well. And finally, Julian joins from Johannesburg in the Southern Hemisphere, and I'm a little bit jealous, Julian, just right now. Okay, January in the United Kingdom versus January in South Africa. I think it might be warmer and a little bit more sunny where you are. So anyway, look, great to have you on board today. Do join in. It's all about participation, level up. It's totally driven by you. So do get those questions in early so that we can get them to the panel. Charlotte, on that note, I think we should move on. We'll take our next question, please.
Nick, this is a question that was a live one submitted on Monday, but we didn't have the time to ask it or answer it on Monday. One of our super fans, Boleslaw, asks, what new skills are panelists planning to add to their CVs in 2024?
Well, what a great question. Thank you, Boleslaw. So Gary, let's start with you first. What are the skills that you're hoping to add in this year?
Yeah, I'm going to share a couple of things and also some advice, because the future of work is changing. And there was some research done recently on the 4-day week, and what it discovered is that because it's all about attention and not time, you can be more effective in less days because there's a kind of a target, and therefore some of the skills you need are around relationships and collaboration, which really set in the emotional intelligence side of your career. But here's the other side of it. For a lot of people who've come in through LinkedIn, I've noticed, if you're applying for a job, the AI robot will filter you out if you don't have the right skills ticked. You can only choose 5, so you need to change them if you're going to change jobs. And so I'm sort of not answering the question exactly as you're asking, but skills for me, relationship skills and collaboration. But for people applying for jobs, be careful what you tick on LinkedIn, because a robot will qualify you out.
It's a good point, isn't it? There's an awful lot of e-recruitment, and behind the e-recruitment headline is an algorithm, and the algorithm is going to be looking for certain elements of evidence, if you like, in whatever content you submit, whether it be your online presence or your electronic CV that you're submitting in order to be able to apply for a post. So that's a really good thing. I think I'll add that to the list for everybody to consider. When did you even last update your electronic CV online? When was that? Because often people leave it for years and then they scramble when it's time for them to actually change, their employer for whatever reason, and they've forgotten half of the things that they did in the meantime. So perhaps that's something for us all to consider. Thank you very much indeed. Michael next, and then we'll go to Sarah.
Well, I have a couple of skills I would like to learn this year. Some of them will be around AI. Well, after I finish with those weather stations, I have to measure data, and then I will apply machine learning to those. But of course, modern AI tools can help you be more productive. And this is what I'm planning to put into use. I have some overdue certifications, some practitioner certifications to do. So definitely project management. And I'm working in a new environment, and I have noticed that scientists do not like my Kanban boards or flow metrics, etc., etc. So I will be searching for something less formal than agile, if it is even possible.
Okay, well, there you are. There's a real challenge for the audience. Agile in an academic context. All right, it'd be great to hear anybody's advice for Michael, anybody that would be able to share their experience in that. And I understand what you're saying. So thank you very much indeed, Michael. That's brilliant. Sarah, your thoughts, please, and then we'll go to Mart.
So I am becoming accredited to deliver the something that's associated with APMG coming out very soon that I am allowed to talk about, I think, STAR, which is all about as managers and leaders making an impact. And actually it would tie in beautifully with people kind of achieving their goals, because it's all about not waiting to actually know how to do something differently or better, but actually doing it in real time and moving forward, and then knowing how to do it for yourselves, which I'm a massive believer in empowering the people around me. Also, obviously, the change management neuroscience is very much something I'm going to be becoming accredited to deliver and as part of my organisations, because I believe, as you know, that everything will be successful around if the people bit's right. So that's what I'll be looking to do. My team, I'm going to upskill in some of the things like SharePoint, still Excel, things like that, so we can kind of collaborate in that sense easier. And I'm going to get myself back out there. So kind of do some more networking and be brave enough to invite myself to perhaps things that I want to be part of.
Well, and we have a guru on that front on the panel today, Gary, who's really helped lots of folks overcome that. So sometimes there's this kind of little almost invisible barrier, isn't there, in us that we just need to kind of overcome in order to be able to, produce that professional networking that we would wish for. So very, very good luck with all of that, Sarah. That's great. Mart, your thoughts, and then Daniëlle.
Just like Sarah said, also going to take a deeper look into the adding another coaching credential, the STAR program that APMG has launched. The other thing is also AI related. The ISO organization, as you may know from my background, helped many organizations with ISO. ISO is releasing a standard, a management system standard for AI. It's about to be released, actually. So, but quite curious what that's all about, and if that's actually something that's going to help organizations with AI. So that's what I'm going to look into.
Yeah, really good. I think after last year's explosion in the large language model, generative AI engines, this year is going to be a period where people start to think about application, and they're thinking about intellectual property, and they're thinking about ethics, and they're thinking about, how all of this stuff dovetails into governance within an organization and the regulatory environment in which we all work. So yeah, good point. Thank you very much indeed. And Daniëlle, final thoughts on this?
I think what you mentioned, Nick, looking at your online CV, I think it's a good thing. That's a reminder for myself. Well, I don't have a specific thing to add to my CV because every year I take a few keywords from the things I would love to do. And for years, I didn't have the time to do the thing, and that is experimenting. There are a lot of things that I am so fascinated about, of which I didn't took the time or had the time to dive into. And one of the things is we talk a lot about AI, but I am also concerned about the AI, like the artificial intimacy. There is so much online. People suffer sky-high depressions, burnout, because less and less we see each other face to face. We have thousands of friends, but no one to feed our cat or bring us a bowl of soup if we're sick. That's a thing I see, especially among younger people. I do a lot of voluntary work with young people who suffer and who are having a hard time. So for me, it's a year of experimenting. Don't know quite, I'm not quite sure where my journey is leading me to, but I will put that next year as a new skill, hopefully in my CV.
Yeah, I'm sure that through that experimentation, you will discover new resources actually from within you, new talents perhaps that have laid a little bit dormant. I think there's something that happens as we grow up. When we're 7, we can be anybody. We can dress up in any costume. We can act out any character. We can paint any picture. We can sketch any outline, and we can write poetry when we're 7. And suddenly, by the time we're 9, we start to be very critical of ourselves for some reason or another. So I would say, use that innovation and experimentation to rediscover perhaps some of those, dormant characteristics that may be able to come to the fore now. Excellent ideas. Thank you very much indeed, panel. And thank you, Boleslaw, for raising the question. So hopefully we've done you proud there, and we'll look forward to hearing your response actually perhaps next time on the next episode. We'll see. Very good. Thank you, Charlotte. Let's move on. We'll take our next question for the panel, please.
Thanks, Nick. Our next question is a live viewer question. Reese Miller, they ask, how can I find a balance between setting realistic/unrealistic goals this new year? Shall I work towards something harder to achieve to keep me motivated?
Well, it's a really good question, because trying to set something which is achievable but is almost like a stretch for us so that we do grow is a very important thing, isn't it? Let's change the order a little bit. Mart, why don't you start us off, and then we'll hear from Sarah.
I found this quote from Francis of Assisi, which I think can help with this answer. He once said, start by doing what is necessary. I mean, have goals for that's what you have to do. Then do what's possible. In other words, what's within reach, what you can do. And then he says, and suddenly you are doing the impossible. In other words, but don't go for the impossible first, because that might be something that derails you quickly. But maybe do it in that sequence. Goals you have to achieve, do goals that are possible, and then you may stumble upon these impossible ones that all of a sudden become possible.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you very much indeed. Break the big problem down into smaller steps. Thank you very much indeed. Sarah, your thoughts, please, and then Gary.
Yeah, it's a really interesting question that really I would love to have a broader conversation around it, because I'm wondering why you're asking about should you work towards something harder. It almost makes me feel like you should be. So recognise that any kind of step forward or improvement is really good. And often when we're doing our things, our growth might be silent. It might not be seen, it might be subtle, but actually it's still happening. And, you know, it's not measured by how loud we can perhaps shout about something or the outcome. So, but yeah, in summary, it's good, like Mart said, to achieve some of those things to kind of give you that enthusiasm to keep pushing forward, but only tackle something that you might find harder if you truly want to achieve it. Because if you don't truly understand the why and the want around it, it's unlikely you probably will.
Thank you very much indeed, Sarah. Gary, your thoughts?
Reece, I think we should talk to people about reframing their thinking and hopefully give some different ideas, because I don't think it's about being realistic or unrealistic. I think it's about being passive or active, and really deciding if things are important enough, then I think we need to be braver and we need to initiate the change or the direction we want to go in. So, for example, I think people need to have more audacity, and that translates into being more driven or being bolder to meet someone else or do something different or do something to make that task or that goal happen, rather than being passive hoping something will happen, if that makes sense. So I think it's not about having something harder to motivate you. I think you need to be motivated to do something harder.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. And I loved it earlier on when we were talking about, creating that opportunity. People often sort of sit and they wish, I wish I won the lottery, or I wish that, I was promoted, or I wish that this might happen or that might happen, whatever. Well, faith is good. I'm a great believer in having a strong faith. Okay. Wishing things to happen, positive thinking, marvelous. All right. But actually, getting on and doing something, however modest it is, towards achieving that activity, if you like, Gary, is a really, really the best recipe, I think, for success. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much indeed. And Daniëlle, and then we'll hear from Michał.
Such a good question, Reece. I'm fond of taking small steps, and I'm 56, and I cannot tell you how many unrealistic goals I made in my whole life. And something I came to understand was that I made a lot of bucket lists, but I forgot to make a fuck it list. The list of all the things I don't want to do anymore, because there are only 24 hours in a day. You only can do as much as you can do. And if you don't get rid of the stuff that doesn't give you energy, you don't want to do, that doesn't motivate you, try to diminish those things so you have space to do the things you really want to do, you're motivated to do. And the other thing is, as I said, a lot of goals, also unrealistic goals, but you have to have your system in check. To give you an example, I'm a mom. I have elderly parents who need a lot of help. I just don't had the time for a lot of goals the last couple of years. So are your systems in check? And if they are not, it's fine to have a year where you just, do the things you have to do and don't aim that high. So to take a little bit of a pressure off your shoulders.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Daniëlle. And Michał, final thoughts on this one.
Daniëlle and Gary, it really resonates with me what you have said. Why to set unrealistic goal? Why is it unrealistic? Now we are asking the right question. Maybe we do not have space for that. Maybe there is something that prevents us from achieving this goal. So now we are asking the right question. So we should reframe that. It was a brilliant answer. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, Michał. I completely agree with that. It's a way of reframing that to think about not those goals so much that we have not been able to manage, but they're yet to be realised in that sense. We're working towards things, and that's how it is. Very good. Thank you very much indeed. And Reece, what a brilliant question. I just want to give a shout out while we've got a moment actually to everybody on who is online and is contributing. I'm going to put a question to you all out there about what it is that you are setting setting out to achieve, okay, this year. And if you want to share those goals in the chat, then please do so. Have a little think about them and pop them in there. It's a supportive community here. So whatever it is that you are shooting for this year, then do share it and let us know. One of the things that I'm trying to do is to improve my knowledge around robotic process automation. So I'm continuing my journey to learn a few more things about how do you get computers to do repeatable bits of work that all of us have to do as part of our roles in modern life. But let's face it, quite frankly, they're a little less value add perhaps than they used to be some years ago. So I'm trying to research that a little bit. Research is quite a grand word, actually. Learn is probably a more appropriate level. So I'm at the baby steps of learning that, but I'm looking forward very much to becoming a little bit more familiar with that in the coming months. So very good. Thank you very much, Rhys, and thank you, panel. Let's move on if we can, and we'll take our next question to the panel, please, Charlotte.
Thanks, Nick. I think this might be one of your questions. So the question is, what are the panel's predictions for the key skills to learn in 2024?
When I put this into Slido as one of my questions, I wasn't thinking so much about ourselves, but more the trends in the market. So we've mentioned, I think, some of these so far, but it would be really good to hear from the panel about what your thoughts are on the key skills that you would recommend as being, predictions, if you like, to try and acquire this year. Gary, why don't you start us off and then we'll go to Mart?
Yeah, the controversial, I think the number one skill that people should focus on is networking. And, because networking can take you so much further I'm talking about networking at work or outside of work or both. And it's something that's underrated. So people do it when they're desperate rather than when they should and make it part of their DNA. So it's not a prediction. My prediction is I wish more people would do it, but I can't underestimate enough. And the book I'd recommend is Never Eat Alone by Keith Ramsey. Read that book. It's a game changer. It will change your life.
Never Eat Alone.
Never Eat Alone by Keith Ramsey. We'll put a link in.
Yeah, thank you very much. That kind of summarizes the why, really, doesn't it, about networking? Okay, so that's fantastic, isn't it? Never eat alone. Marvelous. Okay, very good. Well, we'll find the link for that and we'll share that with the audience momentarily. Mart, your thoughts, then we'll hear from Daniëlle.
To build on Gary's answer, indeed, the networking part, it's underrated, undervalued by many. As if networks grow just by putting likes on something or happen, without putting any effort in. I'd like to add to that the relationship aspect, business relationships particularly, but of course personal relationships as well. Yesterday, a great article, I'll find the link, by Frank Wander was published again about how few leaders recognize the importance of focusing on establishing healthy relationships within organizations. Research simply has proven, especially in today's world, this fast pace of change that we're in, the number of changes that are coming upon us, organizations that are better connected, where relationships are healthy, are in much, much better position to deal with all these changes. Projects happen to have a much higher success rates when relationships are healthy in an organization. And these are just a few examples of what healthy relationships can do for an organization. So business relationships, maturing them, that's my prediction.
Yeah, I think that you're right. And if we're going to differentiate ourselves, if we accept that over time, more of the mundane activities will be done by computers, will be done by automation, then we have to acquire those skills which differentiate us as human beings, and so therefore add value in that world of automation, if that makes sense. So business relationship management, managing our relationships at home and at work and so on, really, really important dimension. Thank you very much indeed. Daniëlle and then Sarah.
You're talking from my heart, Mart. because it's the quality of our relationships that determine the quality of our lives. And let's do the things that we humans are good in, and what we need, and that is relationships. And you mentioned something else that I think is very important: healthy relationships. I'm a networker, but I find myself also in networks that just are not healthy for me, for Daniëlle. And I have been in situations, and I am in situations, in neuroscience we call that the welcome or warning signs your body feels. I feel a lot of warning, so don't do this, this doesn't suit you right. And my mouth says, yes, of course, I will be part of this, I will do, I have to learn to say no, and really, I feel very strong what is good for me, but I don't act enough on that. And the moment you are networking with things that are good for you, then you have the cognitive bandwidth to do a lot of things. Because research shows if you are not feeling well, you're anxious, and you're not in the right spot, it takes a lot of your cognitive capacity away, and your IQ declines to a certain degree. So healthy relationships is key, and we need it as social human beings.
I was really smiling now, because I think we recognize in ourselves it's a habit, to say yes, and as a giving, if your personality is the type to give and to be generous, in that giving, then it's natural, I think, for us to default almost to saying, oh, I'm sure I can do something here. And then actually afterwards, I agree with you. I think to yourself, what on earth am I doing? What on earth am I doing? Because you're at risk of diluting, if you like, yourself to such an extent that you're then unable to, to function as designed. So it's a very important skill to be able to develop. And I'll make a note of that one. Thank you very much indeed, Daniëlle. Sarah, final thoughts on this one?
Absolutely. Tying into what they've all said, really, I'm actually very good at saying no. It's something I've learned to do quite well over my career. And it's only by being able to do that I realised that I'm not, like you say, not giving other people what they perhaps want or need, but actually I'm giving the things that I need to do the absolute 100% best. And it's interesting about the book Gary's recommended, Never Eat Alone, because again, the concept sounds amazing, but sometimes actually for me, I need to be alone. So again, it's kind of dependent, isn't it? And just like Daniëlle said, go to the things that are going to be good for you. And it does fit in with achieving your goals, because actually you can't always do it alone. So having that support and that network will actually achieve your goals. So when I do my goals, I don't just think about myself. I link it to who am I going to need as part of this journey to actually achieve each of these goals, whether it's career or personal.
Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, thank you. And it's an interesting conundrum, isn't it, about modern working, is that we're often physically isolated, but we're not necessarily alone, and we're not necessarily lonely either. But you can actually put all of those three things on the different apexes of a triangle and start to think about that dynamic and how does that actually work together, and where do you excel? Do you ideate? Can you be creative on your own, or do you generally prefer to be with others to be in the same physical space in order to be able to create and think up new thoughts and share ideas and so on? So excellent. Thank you very much indeed, panel. Time is kind of running against us, so we're going to pick up the pace a wee bit. If we can, Charlotte, let's move on to our next question, please.
Thanks, Nick. Question from Esther again. I do not have a clear idea regarding my career path for the coming year. That makes me nervous. Now what?
It's normal to be nervous, Esther, okay, when you're not sure about the future. I think all of us have, a sense of nervousness. Even the great explorers of the world, whether they've been, setting out to chart the oceans of the world without entirely surety of that they're going to find land in time before their provisions run out or whatever. Nervousness, is it good? Can it be a good thing sometimes to have a little bit of fire in the belly, a little bit of anxiety, perhaps? Daniëlle, I think I might actually come to you first on that one. Is a little bit of that a good thing? Could it be a good thing?
Yes, it is. Esther, I feel you. It is a good thing. We need a little bit of stress. We call that eustress. If we don't have that, it keeps us going. Distress is too much. It lames us, but eustress, it is good. And Esther, I said, I feel you, because when I look at social media and I see how many people have their thing together, and I always think all those people know exactly what to do, know the right steps, have their clear vision, etc., etc. And so often I'm struggling and I don't know the way forward. So don't beat yourself up if you see all those happy, glamorous, successful people on social media. There are a lot of people who have the same feeling. And, give yourself, again, the permission to be human. Give yourself the time to figure things out. It doesn't have to be every year higher, faster, bigger. Give yourself time, because that is one of the most valuable gifts you can give yourself. It's time to think about things and feel the direction you might want to go.
Thank you so much indeed. That's really great. Sarah and then Gary.
Just really quite similar. So I was just going to say there might be a very valid reason you don't have a career goal. It could be because you're happy where you are. And like Gary said at the very start, just because it's a new year, it doesn't mean we've suddenly got to think, oh, I must set some different goals or resolutions. So if you're happy, then, just congratulate yourself on what you're doing and think about if there is something you want to do, perhaps how to move forward to, starting doing those things. But don't panic, because I'm sure if you do want to do something different, it will come to you, a bit like Daniëlle said, by having the time to reflect and not actually stressing over not having something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much indeed, Sarah. Gary, your thoughts, and then we'll hear from Michael.
Just quickly from me, I think the fact you're nervous is a good thing because it means you care, and it's kind of an indicator that you want to think about it. My goal for you would be, look, follow your dreams, because when we start out, I wanted to be a rocket scientist, and I'm not, although we have some people on the call that might be. And then I quickly got into a job and got into a rut, and then ended up doing a career I didn't want to do. So, follow your dreams, and it doesn't matter. There's no rush to do this. So if you're nervous about it, it might mean because you're not happy. And if you're not happy, then go back to what you wanted to do and work out a path to get there over time. There's no rush. And on the other hand, as the other guys have said, if you're happy doing what you're doing, that's fine. We don't all have to go up and over. It's fine. It's just as long as you're enjoying what you're doing and you're having good fun, then do it. So that would be my thoughts.
Excellent. Thank you. Mart and then Michael.
It's good. Indeed. Happen. You create them.
Thank you very much indeed. You create them. All right, very good. My apologies. I was getting a little bit muddled there over contributions. And so thank you very much indeed. We're going to move on. We can squeeze in one final question, panel, if we're super quick on this. So Charlotte, what's our final question to the panel today?
Thank you. Our last question is a live question. How can one effectively maintain momentum and track progress towards set goals? Are there specific tools you would recommend for productivity in goal pursuits?
All right. So in the pursuit of our goals, any tools to help us be more productive? Michael, why don't you start us off on Howay's question?
Well, for what was the best for me was a personal Kanban. So I like to keep track of my goals. I like to see them, and I like to revisit them, both to make space for new ones or to think why I felt off the wagon, right? Because those are the important questions. So any tool that will help you visualize the goals so you could revisit them weekly, daily. I put my Kanban board right in front of me at my desk, so I can see those goals every time I sit at my desk. So this is what keeps me on track.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed, Michael. It's great to have that insight. Sarah started off with that. Have your visual clues, or cues rather, kind of in view at all times. Gary, your thoughts on this, please. Then we'll go to Sarah.
Yeah, look, to be honest, tools aren't going to help you because that's not the problem. The problem is the motivation behind it. And one of the ways to have motivation behind it is your goal big enough and are you serious about it? If the answer is yes, then if you hold yourself accountable, you'll be much more successful. For example, some people say don't share your goals with others. I absolutely don't agree with that. Share it with someone else. Set yourself a 23-day goal to do the work you're going to do. And at the end of each day, text someone you're close to that you've done what you said you're going to do. You don't have to say what it is. And only do it if you've done it. And do that every day for 23 days. Then it will become a habit because you've committed to it. Some ideas.
That commitment is super important, isn't it? I think, if you own a gym, you look forward to February and March because, in January, you probably earn your money running it. But in February and March, everybody's paying you to do very little by then. So I agree with that. I think the motivational element is more important than the actual membership. That makes sense. So well worth thinking about that. Sarah, your thoughts on this one, please, and then we'll go to Daniëlle.
Yeah, 100%. It is. It's a bit like you said earlier. It's actually getting up and doing it, isn't it? You can have all the visions or whatever in the world, but if you're not going to do anything about it, they're pointless. But they are a good starting point to kind of know what you're striving for. And within my vision board, I know I mentioned it earlier, but I do have the little reward as well on there. And it might be something silly. Like a couple of years ago, it sounds strange for those of you that know me, but I'd never had a Bloody Mary. Really random, but I wanted to actually have a Bloody Mary with my breakfast, like in a nice place. So I made that like a little reward because it's a little achievable thing to, recognise that I'd achieved something that I wanted. So I also, make sure that I thought about that throughout as well. So I can literally get my pen out, mark off my vision as I go. And then what I do when I've marked off a vision, I think about, is there another one that I want to kind of take place?
Excellent. What a good idea as well. And that might be a whole new level for the famous radio program Desert Island Discs. Okay, where would you like to have breakfast in the world? And would the desert island actually suit that experience? So wonderful. Thank you, Sarah. Final thoughts, Daniëlle, please.
I keep it short. We all know the SMART definition, be specific, measurable, etc. SMART, we know that a timetable, but I would like to add the E and the R, make it smarter. The E for emotions. I have to feel something. It has to be a welcome feeling towards the things I want to do. And I am with Gary. I like to keep relationships to help me get to my goals. So if you make it SMART, put on the end a E for what are the emotions? Are they positive? Do I really want this? And the R, ask for help. Ask for help. Let people help you with your goals.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. And some great acronyms and some great ways of remembering and building in those patterns. And as human beings, I think one of the things that we learn when we're little are routines and patterns of behavior and so on. So if you get into good habits, then generally that helps your muscle memory prompt you that it's time to get on and do, the next cycle of whatever that repetition actually is. So really great thinking. Thank you, panel, and thank you, Howe, for raising that question for us. I think it's something that's on everybody's mind, who's joined us today online. So thanks so much for doing that. Okay, very good. Well, we've run out of time, so let's get some closing remarks now from our panel. We'll go around in guest order. So if I may, Daniëlle, come to you first, and then we'll go to Sarah.
Well, thank you, dear audience, for all the wonderful questions. And thank you so much, dear panelists, for sharing your wisdom. I learned a lot. And, it shows again how much we need each other, also in setting and keeping our good intentions. So let's keep encouraging each other and give ourselves the permission to be human.
Absolutely. Give yourself the permission to be human. That sounds an excellent idea on a Friday, actually, doesn't it? Coming up for the weekend. Sarah, your thoughts, please. Then we'll go to Mart.
So absolutely, the audience, thank you again for all of your brilliant questions, and the panel, as always, I've learned a lot too, and been making notes. So I'll leave it with something I said earlier. Some things have to end for better things to be able to begin.
Some things have to end. You need to give something up, don't you, to make the space for the new. Spring cleaning, you need to retire some of that, slightly faded content in order to be able to refresh and reinvigorate and revitalize. So completely agree with that. Thank you, Sarah. Mart and then Gary.
Great questions indeed, and a lot of unity I sensed amongst the answers from the panelists, which was fantastic to get a consistent message. I will want to refer to a quote we all have heard many times. I'd like to just repeat it and remind us. I mean, choose a career that you love, literally, that feels like, feels good, that makes you feel good. Because once you choose a career that you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life.
Instantly true, isn't it? And you see that so much when somebody's passionate about a subject and they're doing it for their day job. It really, really shows, doesn't it? It's extraordinary. They almost have this radiance about them, and you cannot help but be captivated by that. It's fabulous when that happens. Excellent. Thank you, Mart. Gary, your final thoughts, please, and then we'll hear from Michael.
Thanks for having me on. Great panel. Lots of t-shirt moments come up today. Just for people to know, I'm part of an APMG solution called the PS Professional, and part of that, there's a book called Productivity Ninja, and it's by a guy called Graham Alcott. Sorry to mention books, but I've had him on my podcast this week. So the podcast is called The Company Doctor. It's a great episode to talk about productivity in a new way. And secondly, there's another episode called Hunting, Hustling, Hired, which is some new ideas on how to get to progress your career. So thanks for having me on. What a great panel. I really enjoyed the session, and hopefully see you guys again soon.
Well, I'm really looking forward to that episode, Hunting, Hustling, Hired. So I'm going to review that most certainly, because that will have lots of really good moments of truth in it for all of us. So I'll look that one up. And if you're watching online at the moment, you'll be able to see the QR code just popping up on the screen right now for that one. So do have a little look at that. Thank you, Gary. And also thank you for the book recommendation as well. The Productivity Ninja, great title. Michael, your closing remarks, please.
Well, my only closing remark would be to celebrate your achievement, and maybe also plan some time for yourself to rest and regain momentum and have a wonderful year.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed. Great advice as ever. Thank you very much, Michael. And we look forward to hearing more about your academic progression this year and your voyages into the worlds of AI and machine learning and all of that good stuff. So we look forward to that. Charlotte, a very interesting episode. In fact, this is the part 2 of the New Year episode. So been a fascinating week for us. What are your thoughts on today?
It's been a knowledge-filled episode for the last 60 minutes. It's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you to everybody that's contributed. I'm going to end on a quote, if that's okay, Mart. One of my favorite films and one of my favorite actors of all time, Marty McFly, Michael J. Fox. If you set your mind to if you set your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Most certainly can. Flux capacitor or not, you can fix it if you really apply yourself to it. Fantastic. What a great quote as well. I didn't think it would take us 2 years or more on Level Up to be able to quote Michael J. Fox, but there you go. Thank you very much indeed, Charlotte. Great job as ever as our question master, and Ella over in the social chat. Brilliant job. The main people for us to thank as a panel are our producers online. So everybody who joined us today and joined in with the chat. Some of you didn't get a shout out. Deborah, thank you very much indeed for joining from Paris. Very beautiful city, of course, capital of France. Lovely to have you with us today. And all of the other people as well. We've got Deborah, who's joined from the UK as well online. I've just been watching out of the corner of my eye. So great to have you all today. And on their behalf, panel, thank you so much for giving us your time so generously again as part of the Level Up community. We appreciate it. If you would like to connect with the panel on LinkedIn, you can find a link to each of their LinkedIn profiles over on the APMG International website. Just look at our events page, find today, and then you'll see a little short version of the panelist bios with a little link that you can click. And I know that everybody welcomes professional connections. So please do that. Now, talking about our website, over there, you can find the answers to more than 2,100 questions that have been previously asked on episodes of Level Up and all of the other events and recordings that we do here at APMG International. It's totally free and it connects you with more than 290 experts from around the world. Don't forget, you may also listen to the audio versions of the shows on your preferred podcast platform. Just simply search for APMG International and level up your career and you'll find us easily enough. Coming up next week on Monday, we're going to be exploring our first session for the year on how to engage project stakeholders. That kicks off at 8 a.m. UK time. And later on in the week, we'll be building our digital leadership skills Friday the 19th at 2 p.m. in the afternoon here in the UK. So don't forget, head over to our YouTube channel. If you're not watching us live, take a moment, please. Just give us a like. It's super helpful. It doesn't cost you anything. And it really helps others to find the channel. And of course, if you subscribe, well, you will get alerts about the new content that's released. Just ask, and we will, of course, email you a personal summary of what's coming up and how you too can join us here on the panel and level up your career with APMG and learn more in 24. Thanks very much, everybody. Take care. We'll see you next time.